Hi, so when we think about sort of very traditional witchcraft and certain craft concepts, there are things that are folkloric that for people who embrace folkloric and traditional witchcraft, both modern traditional witchcraft as well as older traditions of craft, there's certain things, terms, and concepts that we tend to throw away without really sort of digging into where they're from. And one of these that I think is very much throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of situation is a threefold return. Please bear with me on this. So, when we think of it today, a lot of literature will describe it like karma or the Western interpretation of karma. Everything that you do will come back threefold. Now, I mentioned in a recent episode of Witch the Parts, the last one that I did with Taranes, about threefold return originally as a concept of retaliatory magic. It is a method of cursing. So I wanted to expand on that a little. So when we look at the principle of threefold return, there are three primary interpretations of it. Magic can be returned to its sender at the exact same level and force at which it was delivered, double or triple. I'll go into why in a moment. But retaliatory magic is something where you find that somebody's cursed you and you retaliate, you harm them back. And I really don't see why people are so shying away from this concept. The concept was actually in the trial records, in a lot of trial records actually, is both the equal and the triple is definitely in there. And then in things like Aragia, the Gospel of Witches, which you can find in my book, Aragia, A Modern Guide to Charles Godfrey Learn's Gospel of Witches, you see the double scenario. So witches interact with spirits and beings and deities. And when it comes to deities and beings and things that we can source power from, whistle, I can't actually whistle, so I don't know how I made that sound, but when it came to retaliatory magic, you lean into that pact, that covenant that you have with the spirit, and depending on the spirit's manifestation, if it has a triple manifestation, then each aspect of it, each facet of it, will retaliate, so it's triple. If it has dual aspect, so two sides, then it's double, and if it has a singular aspect, then it's equal. When we see the folkloric devil, for example, everything is always the exact same that you send is what comes back. It isn't magnified anywhere. So where does this principle come from? Well, it's a really sound bit of magic. If you call up a spirit, a being, a deity, and you call for some type of destructive force to be released into the world, has to go somewhere. You've contracted the spirit to bring this destruction into the world. Where does it go if it can't reach its target, if the target is well protected, or if they send it back? So there are things called conditional curses. You can put effectively a line around yourself, around something, and you basically say anything that crosses this line has to take this, has to accept these terms and conditions. When it crosses, it's like signing on the dotted line. You see this in a lot of folk magic. People put something down, someone walks over it, and they pick up the curse. That's them agreeing to it. It bypasses their protections because they've agreed. It's like they've signed on a contract, so the contract is now legit, it's legal. There's nothing they can use to defend against the legality of it. It's the same kind of situation here. So what you do is you put a line and you say, if you come to me, anything that crosses this line must go back from where it came from. And you're going to invoke something bigger than yourself, beyond your power, to send it back. And that's where the magnification comes in. This is where the retaliation comes in. It isn't just a return to send a spell. This isn't just neutralizing. This is, I'm going to show you who you're dealing with, and you retaliate. And so the the principle of threefold return is a curse, and it's a conditional curse. You break these terms and conditions, you take this upon yourself. When we find in the trial records the devil, he will turn up and he will ask the consent of his witches to curse people, to harm them. They'll do the work, they'll put the pins in the doll, and then he'll say, do I have your consent to this act? Why does he need the consent? Because you always need somewhere for the magic to go. If it can't reach its destination, that thing is let loose, and it needs somewhere to go. So you assign somewhere for it to go. If it can't reach its target, it goes here. Now, a lot of people don't do that. Why would you invoke something back on yourself? Something back on yourself. I'm going to do a video on that. Why would you call something upon yourself? Because you want to control it. So people always say, like, oh, my familiar, my cat, my houseplant took the hit of a curse. No, if you're well protected and something doesn't have somewhere to go, it will just find something. It might try and come back to you. Find you're quite strong in yourself, your power. So just find something that it can latch onto and inflict that curse upon. So it's about protection and good occultism. If someone hasn't designated where something goes, it will bounce around your house. If you live alone or you've got a well-protected house, then it will bounce back to them. And now you can decide, does it bounce back all quite magnified? That's where it's retaliation. So that's why the devil always asks for consent. Now, where did this twist come from? Two places. The more recent one was actually in like the 80s, when there was this narrative of witches don't curse people, we're all white light. So they had to make the retaliation and the curse of it something different. So they just said, anything you send out comes back to you. That wasn't what it was. It was a curse. It was aggressive magic. I know you get people and they go, oh, I don't believe in the law of three. If I got a shotgun and I shot you and you didn't know I had a gun, your disbelief in my possession of a weapon does not prevent me from using my weapon. That is what threefold return is. It's a weapon. We might have defanged it and declawed it within certain conversations, but it's a weapon. It doesn't matter if, like, serial killer on a film, right? They all these teen slasher movies. Someone's always driving in the car with their friends, half their mates have already been massacred, and the killer steps out in front of the car, and because they want to show that the main person, the final girl, she's virtuous. So she, of course, presses the brakes on the car and goes, and doesn't hit the guy. If my friends have been massacred, and I'm driving my car, which I care a lot about, I will say, and a serial killer stepped in front of that car, I'm putting my foot right down on that accelerator, whether they believe I'm going to do it or not. I'm going to hit them. I'm going to bounce them off the bonnet. I'm going to put that thing in reverse. I'm going to go back over them again. And then I'll go over the bastard again. Because I do not care what he believes. If I have a weapon to defend myself, I'm going to use it. And someone's disbelief in your weapon is not a protection. It isn't protection if you don't think someone will hit you with their car. It doesn't matter if you don't think they're going to shoot you. It doesn't matter if you don't think that they're going to stab you or they even have these weapons on them. Saying, I don't believe, I don't subscribe to, I don't follow, you don't have to. If someone has a weapon, they do not need your permission to use it. That is why it is a weapon. That's why it is aggressive magic. And I think we need to put the teeth and the claws back into our craft sometimes and rehabilitate these old things, because these are old things like Compendium Maleficarum, the Radio, like I mentioned, the Scottish witch trials, the Lancashire witch trials. You find obscure things in Italy and in Spain and some in France of this retaliatory magic. And people always depend on there was puritanical magic. Puritans were allowed to do certain acts of magic, and we tend to use our defensive things as things that Puritans would do. Make a witch bottle. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but let's acknowledge where it was. If we brought a witch back from the old days, and showed them our witchcraft, they would notice the magic of their oppressor, the person who was hanging them, burning them, dunking them, torturing them. They would not find themselves in it. They would find the people who were putting them to death and on trial. And that is where we need to reclaim some of our own magic. And that starts by acknowledging these changes, and particularly if you're folkloric, but in your approach, because this is where it comes from. So that was point one, the modern change. But the other change came in a more insidious way. You had the magical lodges that didn't want to explain the principles of a ricochet, a magical ricochet. So what they would do is they would say to the followers, "Oh, we curse someone, it doesn't matter, nothing will come back to us." But then they would tie the lodge into the magic and disperse the effect across its members. So you think you've got something that you send out, and it comes back. Let's just say it comes back equal to what you sent out, but then you disperse that across 20 people. Everyone takes a smaller hit. They thought that was great logical sense. I keep myself clean, or I might take some of the hit, but so's everybody else. So it becomes so divided, it's diluted. In the end, these magical lodges all imploded because they didn't realize that it just builds. It's like when you take small amounts of poison, it builds up in your system. And then sometimes it can be something so tiny. Some people have a toxic build-up in their body, and then something like changing like their washing detergent kills them because their body's just coping, and then any slight chemical change is just enough to knock them over the edge. It just pushes them over the edge. These small little bits of poisoning that they think are fine, and then they just go. And these magical lodges implode. It's like I often say about the Hermetic Lodge with the Golden Dawn. Everyone acts like it was the most successful thing in the world. It lasted for 16 years, and then it imploded. Its entire legacy is shorter than most people here on the internet talking. We've been doing witchcraft for far longer than that cult group was operating, and that's why, they were throwing curses left, right, and centre, and they thought they was getting away with it by twisting a magical approach, and it didn't work. And also, as well, if it's coming back magnified, that's going to cause fractures in the magical construct that is the group. And when that fractures, anything can get inside, and it can become corrupted and warped, and then the power twists and becomes destabilized, and then you are like the fuse in your magic. So a surge of corrupted power, it pops, and these groups imploded, and they all implode. And that's why we often say about covens, magical groups, look at the fruit they bear, because if someone's doing magic and they're not thriving off it, there's a problem. You see the people who say, "Oh, I work with these dark beings." I'm not saying dark beings are terrible, but some people work with certain beings, and you just scroll back through their YouTubes, start low, go all the way back up, and you see through their thumbnails, as their videos, they just start wasting away. You can see they're just degrading, and it's terrible to say, but that's what comes from it. And people think they're getting away consequence free, and they don't see the consequence. So old occult principles, I think, I'm not saying you have to follow the teaching. I'm saying let's look back at the teaching, because this modern interpretation is a bunch of crap. But at the same time, a weapon is a weapon, and there's no denying it. If someone has a weapon and they're going to use it, it doesn't matter what you believe, because a weapon is still something that can be used against you, whether you believe someone is there or not. The reason that I always say, when it comes to accepting drinks on a night out, it doesn't matter who gets you the drink. Go to the bar, you get it yourself, you see it poured, you take it, because no one has ever been caught out by someone they didn't trust. You think someone's suspicious and weird, you're not accepting anything from them. The people that get caught out are caught out by someone they trusted, and they shouldn't have. A belief or a disbelief in something does not protect us. Being aware of the truth and reality of something, and then knowing how to react accordingly, is what protects us. And so retaliatory magic is a curse. It is something that is powerful and potent, and we should be aware of it, or we can be at the risk of of it being weaponized against us. So that's my thoughts. I welcome other people's thoughts, opinions, concepts. Is this even something that you've even noticed in the old trial records? Um, Look back, you'll start seeing it, and you'll be like, "Damn, it really is there." So I'm just going to leave you with those thoughts. I'm open to other people's thoughts, and I will speak to you all soon. Take care.